Okay, so I know I have a lot of stuff to review right now, but I wanted to take a step back for a video and talk about what's coming in 2026 because wow, we have an insane year ahead of us. Hey everybody, it's Luca from Rackets and Runners. So I don't think I've actually ever been this excited for a year of tennis rackets. The last few years have been good, but we have some huge new releases coming out in 2026. I want to talk about what's coming, but also what I'm personally particularly excited for from what I've seen so far. Even the current lines that are being updated are going to get some huge changes, starting with those VCores that I talked about in the last video. I'm currently in the process of reviewing the 98. I'm having a ton of fun with that review. It's one of the coolest updates I've seen to a line in a very long time, so I'll get that out as soon as possible. But anyways, I'm gonna go through all the stuff that's coming, and I'm also gonna talk about what I hope to see with the updates or those full-on new lines, basically the playability I hope they have. I think that'll add a fun element to this video, but obviously the end product could be completely different to what I talk about here. I don't really get that much early access into what the brands are doing, but hopefully you like that. And I'm also not saying that if a brand doesn't do exactly what I asked them to do, that they were wrong. Look at the last E-Zone. I kept asking Yonex to remove dampening and bring the line back to its classic roots. They did the opposite, and I ended up switching to it. And of course, as usual, remember that any of the products I talk about on this channel, you can check out on our website, racketsandrunners.ca. In the case of this video, you're gonna have to wait till those rackets actually come out. And also, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me in the store on Instagram, and let me know in the comment section what you want me to cover next. So the VCores, there's already enough content out there where you probably all know what these are about at this point. And yes, the major update has been a massive boost in power. Now, I'm still trying to figure out whether I personally like that or not, at least whether or not it works for my game. But one thing's for sure, more power seems to be what everybody's looking for these days, so I think they made the right choice. The 98 is one of, if not the most powerful 98s I've ever tested. I'd even go as far as to say this is less a spin racket than a power racket at this point. And I think if the pros are as eager to switch rackets as they were last year, this will be one of the most popular options. I know if you watched my first impressions or if you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably see how I talked about control being a little bit lacking, but that's more for my game. I think if you play with enough spin, you absolutely can control this higher and more powerful launch. And then, of course, this is still a 98. And one of the things I think Yonex absolutely nailed with this update is that satisfying factor that people want with a racket that has this head size. It is dampened, so it certainly doesn't have a classic feel, but when you catch the ball right, it provides a unique and positive sensation that very few rackets have, and that's when it produces a super powerful and heavy ball. I'll talk about that a lot more in the full review, but I am so excited to see how people respond to this racket. It is a big change for sure, but I do think it is generally a good one. Too many rackets come out nowadays with very minor tweaks, and I gotta give it to Yonex. They always take big leaps, and they usually end up with a good product in the end. Now, it's a similar story on the 100, more power, higher launch. So again, I do think it's more of a power racket than a spin racket at this point. I've been testing it alongside the E-Zone 100, and I would say the E-Zone is more spinny, or at least it has that plusher, modern spinny feel, and it's more forgiving. This is a much heavier hitter. Again, that's a change I'm curious to see how people will respond to. And then, of course, there's this 100D, which tones everything down a little bit, but it's still very powerful and even more rewarding than the standard 100. Playing with this racket, I kind of wish Yonex had also given us a 98D just to see how a denser string bed would help to lower the launch, add a little more control, and I'm sure it would still be extremely powerful, but hey, they've given us a lot here. I'm not gonna get too greedy. The racket I might be most excited for in this line, though, is the one I haven't tested yet, the VCore 95. Obviously, because it has a smaller head size and probably a denser string pattern, control will be higher, that's just a fact. But when you factor in those other updates it's probably gonna have, well, it could be an insane racket. The sweet spot will be bigger, 100%, because it is on the 98 and the 100, and the sweet spot on that racket was already probably the biggest I'd ever felt on a 95 ever. I still think it was maybe a little bit too punishing to be really usable at the highest level, but now that could be exactly what the racket needs to be the perfect 95 for the modern game. And if it has the same increase in power that the 98 and the 100 has, well, it's still gonna have good control with that smaller head, so I think it could maybe be the VCore with the best blend of control and power. Yeah, I'm super excited to try that racket. Then we've got the new speeds, which again, there's already a lot of content out there talking about these. Unfortunately, I didn't get them in time to bring with me to Hawaii for the holidays, but I do have them now. I'm hitting with this new speed tour later today, and as you can imagine, a speed with a 97 score inch head size, I am extremely excited to play with this racket, and I'll probably overlay some footage because I will be editing this after I play. We've been asking for a smaller head size speed for a while. By the way, Head are absolutely killing it with rackets that nerds are asking for. They already did it with the Gravity Tour, but a smaller head size speed could literally be perfect. Speeds already have a pretty clean feel and really decent control considering their head size and slightly thicker beam, and 97 square inches is going to make both those things significantly better. Now it still has that 23mm beam, so I'm assuming power will still be high and spin also probably higher than your average 97. So if we're talking well-rounded playability on a 97, it's probably going to be really, really good. Also, high bore, I haven't talked about it in a few months, but Head is onto a winner with this technology. It makes the sweet spot a little bigger, but also makes the feedback much more satisfying than that slightly muted feel of Auxetic 2.0. Now for the Speed MP and the Pro, I've pretty much already used those. The Legend line shares the exact same playability as the standard speeds, and I did review those back in September. You can go watch those 2 reviews to see what I have to say. I probably will do a full Speed MP review once I'm done testing the Tour, but like I said, high bore was a great addition to those rackets, so fantastic frames as well. I also really like the update to this paint job, more black, less white. I always think that looks really clean on a racket. Now moving on to Babolat, I think they're only releasing one racket this year, the Pure Aero. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about these, but I am currently testing the 98, and what I will say is that it is very different. Now I'm all for big changes, it makes my job more fun, and I do think people generally prefer big changes, but after all the praise they got on the previous 98, I'm not sure that was the right decision. I guess we'll see how people respond to it, but yeah, that's going to be a massive review that's coming either in late January or February, and they also changed the 100 quite a bit. That racket's mold basically hasn't changed since they first released it back in 2004, so yes, it's going to take a lot of time for Aero purists to get used to it, but if there's one company that pretty much always nails their changes, it is Babolat. They don't change things just for the sake of changing them, but when they do, they usually start some sort of new trend or playability shift in the industry. The original Aero, the original Pure Drive, the last Aero 98, those are vanguard rackets. The big thing with the previous Aero 98 was that excellent combination of spin, big hitting potential on a smaller head size. That's pretty much exactly what Yonex have done with the VCore 98. They're clearly trying to take a little piece of that pie. And as much as Babolat has changed this Aero, it still achieves that playability just in a slightly different way. But people really like the previous one, so we will see how everyone responds to it in the long run. I can't wait to get that review out to everybody. So that's what's coming early on this year. A lot of good stuff. I mean, Speed, Aero, VCore, those are some of the most popular lines in tennis. And speaking of popular lines, we're also getting a new blade this year. Rumor has it, this new blade is actually getting a mold update, which hasn't really happened ever if I can recall properly, so yes, that is exciting. It's not that the current blade's design is old, but it is starting to feel a little bit dated, at least for what players are looking for in the modern game with regards to more power and spin. I'm not sure exactly what this change is supposed to look like, but my guess is that it's not going to have that classic constant beam anymore. Maybe it's going to be a little bit thicker in the hoop, and then a little bit thinner in the throat to keep that nice flexible feel. Whatever it is though, it's exciting, and I think it's coming sooner rather than later this year, and you all know how much I love Wilson blades, so yeah, it's another racket I cannot wait to try out. We are also getting a new Pro Staff this year, and this should be coming out in February. Now this one I think is going to be a really minor update, maybe even just a new paint job. I think they're going to go back to a more classic colorway, but other than that, I haven't received any info on tech updates. And at the end of the day, it's a Pro Staff. They don't really need or want to make that many major updates. If they ever did want to modernize the line again, like they did back in 2015, I'm sure they could figure something out, but you always want to keep that crisp, pure feel on a Pro Staff. So I wouldn't be disappointed if they didn't change it all that much. I do think they're going to be getting rid of some of the models in the line though. I know the Pro Staff X wasn't all that successful for them, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see it go. Honestly, I didn't really understand the point of that racket to begin with. The most exciting Wilson racket of the year though has to be this new blacked out racket that we've all seen on social media at this point, and that Tsitsipas has also been testing a lot in recent months. There's a lot of chatter about this racket, and with good reason. It seems to be another one of those modern spinny players rackets with a 98 square inch head size and an aerodynamic throat. It's not a new shift, it's an entirely different line, but it might actually replace the shift, which is a good racket. I would be sad to see it go, but it hasn't been that successful for them. This feels like a new attempt at a more control-oriented spin racket racket, which I think is a great idea. Obviously, other brands are killing it with this style of frame. Aero 98, VCore 98, E-Zone 98, Extreme Pro, and it's no surprise that Wilson is desperate to get into that market. The most exciting thing for me here is seeing just how many professional players are at least trying to switch to it for the upcoming season. Pros are looking for more spin and more power, that much we know. So if that's what this frame provides, well, I'm sure it's going to be a really nice racket. I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I do think this is for later on in the year, so unfortunately we do have to wait, and I really hope I can get an early test sample or something like that to see what's so special about it. Again, I do think it's going to replace the Shift, but for whatever reason, if they do decide to keep it, I think there are some subtle updates they could do to make it much more popular. It needs a bigger sweet spot, that's for sure, but Wilson has that technology, so they could definitely do that. And otherwise, I mean, it has really good spin, really good power, and I think it's actually quite precise for the type of racket that it is. But don't be surprised if they do get rid of the Shift. So if you like it, now's probably a good time to start stocking up. Now for something that I'm personally super excited about, new Tecnifibre rackets coming out this year. And the reason I'm so excited is that I've actually been invited by Tecnifibre to Paris for the release of this frame. This is the first time I've had the opportunity to do anything like this in the tennis industry, and I'll be making plenty of content when I'm there, so please keep an eye out for that. Now I think this is going to be some sort of power racket, but I don't have that much information about it, so I am going in pretty blind. But that really doesn't matter. I can't wait for that trip. Thank you Tecnifibre for inviting me, and if last year's T-Fight is anything to go off of, it's probably going to be a really good racket. At least I hope so. Now we are also getting a new boom this year, which is my former racket of choice, and I'm guessing the update is going to be similar to the new speed, so no mold change and the introduction of high bore into the layup. Like I said, I love high bore. I think it's one of the best modern layup technologies I've experienced in any racket, and I don't think the boom needs much more than a subtle update. It's never going to be the most popular racket, but it is exceptional at what it does, and it's carved out its own little niche in the market. Players who like the boom absolutely swear by it. So I think high bore is the perfect update. I don't think I'm ever going to go back to it, but obviously this is a racket I love testing and I always play very well with. I'm not sure when it's coming. I'm guessing sometime in the spring, but this could also be a US Open release. But the new rackets don't stop there. We're getting another new design from Head, the Squared line. Yes, that's the name of the racket. It's the Head Squared. Little history lesson. When the Clash came out back in 2019, Head released the Gravities right around the same time, and it became this weird sort of misconception that the Gravities were supposed to be Clash competitors. They're not. Gravities are completely different rackets, much more classic and controlled. The Clash is a true comfort racket with a super unique layup, a very different feel, and everything about the racket is designed to be as forgiving as possible. That's where the Head Squared comes in. This is their Clash competitor. I can't say that much about the racket, but there is some sort of comfort technology in there. So if you do use the Clash and you want to try something different, this could be the perfect option. This is the X factor of the year for me, Mizuno rackets. I believe they're coming early, I've played with them, and all I can say is wow. Mizuno is known for some incredible technology and R&D in other sports, and I am astounded by some of the playability on offer with their rackets. I can't wait to review them. I'm not kidding. Some of the stuff I tested, I've never felt on any racket before. Now I know, tennis players like me can be quite fickle. We don't necessarily like new stuff. We find it kind of weird. But this could be game-changing, so stay tuned for Mizuno. Now that's it for all the new rackets I know are coming out this year. I can't believe how many genuinely crazy updates and new lines we're getting. It's gonna be wild. Now let's talk about some other stuff, mainly shoes. If you've seen any of my recent videos and Instagram stories, you'll know I've been testing the brand new ASICS Solution Speed for the past month. That video will be coming out sometime in January, and we're also bringing in Diadora shoes this year. I've also been testing those. They are great, especially the fit. It's kind of like a Nike Vapor, so I can't wait to get that review out as well. And then we're also getting a new Mizuno Exceed Tour. The last one was a crazy light shoe, so we can probably expect similar playability out of the 7, so keep an eye out for that review too. But that's it. That's all the stuff I wanted to talk about today. Like I said, I'm super excited. I've probably said that 100 times in this video, but I am. And January is going to be crazy on this channel, so strap in. With that said, that is going to be the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and remember that once all of these products come out, if you want to demo them, you can come visit us in store, or if you want to buy them, you can go online at racketsandrunners.ca.